Hello everyone. Welcome to the new episode of the show called Behind the Success. जहां पर हम सिर्फ सक्सेस की बात नहीं करते बल्कि उन स्टोरीज की बात करते हैं जिससे जो भी पर्सनालिटीज या जो गेस्ट हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं वो कैसे सक्सेसफुल बने हैं. So it's extremely important to talk about the values and the framework which actually help them sustain their success. So in today's episode, we have Pooja with us. Pooja has been building a different way of education, I would say, and that too through playgrounds, not just in India, but also outside India. She has also received a couple of awards like Social Business Champ by Muhammad Yunus, Young Alumni Achiever Award by IIT Kharagpur, awarded by Governor of Goa, and also selected for Ashoka Change Maker Fellowship, and along with Socap Conference, which she attended in Silicon Valley. So thank you, Pooja, for being with us, and I'm really looking forward for today's episode.
Thank you, Gaurav, for inviting. Looking forward to a great conversation.
Thank you. So the first thing which comes to my mind, and I usually ask a lot of our guests on a lighter note, just to little break the ice for our listeners. So there is a saying in our Indian society which goes by पढ़ोगे लिखोगे तो बनोगे नवाब and खेलोगे कूदोगे तो बनोगे खराब और शैतान. It also varies as per the demography. So my question to you is that since you're working on the later aspect, do Indian parents really like you? And what is your take on that?
So, yeah, I don't know if Indian parents like me, but my parents are definitely disappointed in what I'm doing. And yes, I think most parents, I think, agree to what you just said. They all believe that we as a society, we believe that academic education and cognitive learning is very important, children scoring more marks. But that's not the reality. We need, an education system which helps children in their holistic learning. And that is the mindset shift that we as an organization are trying to create. Show people that how important is play in the lives of children, especially in their growing years, in their early years. And I think we have somewhere, started to bring that mindset, with the new education policy and a lot of other companies also sort of adopting a play-based learning method. I think we are moving in the right direction.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. And since you have been running an organization and you have been building, I would say, very beautiful concepts, and also from the aesthetic point of view and from sustainability point of view, it's also very soothing and very, I would say, very different thought process, which a lot of us don't think about. So, and just for our listeners, the organization you're part of is called Enthil Creations. So my next question is that what is the thought behind Enthil being the key word for the organization?
So it's actually an interesting story. I mean, the team which started this organization, we were all friends from IIT Kharagpur. We were all designers and architects. And in architecture, we take a lot of inspiration from nature. So biomimicry is something that we all sort of, really sort of connect with and want to incorporate in our designs. And anthill is one structure. Like these are like houses that ants make. And you would have seen like very huge ant hills as well, which is made by ants which are so small. So that philosophy that hundreds of little ants coming together can build something which is even bigger than themselves is what we wanted to have in our organization, bringing communities together to create a change. And yeah, I think that's how the name anthill came into being.
That's lovely. And I was actually this thought crossed my mind what you exactly shared, and I was actually thinking that if this is the case, it will be lovely because our society actually needs people to come together, because a lot of times we often believe that okay, I'm too little to make an impact, I'm too little to create a difference. But eventually, if the 7.25 billion people across the world start thinking the same, that they can make a lot of difference, things will drastically change. And so I would really I'm really happy to see what you're doing today. With this, I would also like to take a time and reflect a bit back to your school times, because I understand that a lot of things happens because of our own past. And or if I say it in a better way, I would rephrase it and say that we all are stories and outcomes of the choices we made in the past, right? So my next the curious aspect to know is that since you did your schooling from city Montessori school Lucknow, and the school also has a deep rooted philosophy for holistic child development. This actually came from my research. So I'm asking that since pre-primary, was there any seed being deep rooted in you that you wanted to do something for both the aspects, the academic and also the playful life for kids?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, that it's not that one incident that you make a choice and, that changes the journey of what you're trying to do. It's a lot of things that happened in the life that we all are doing what we're doing today. And actually, my journey, I would say, started way before I entered the school. So first 10 years of my life, I've spent in a hill station called Almora. And the life in hills is very, very different from how it is in some of the cities today. We used to spend all our times, climbing to the rocks and playing outside. And it was just such a natural part of our daily lives. I think my parents were less protective when I was there, because that's what they saw around them as well. But in the last 20 years, I've seen the transition. Like, today's parents are so protective about their children. Like, before they even learn how to walk, they are swiping left and right on their mobile phone screens. So there is, that change that I have seen in my life, really disturbs me, that we're not moving in the right direction. I mean, technology and digitization is definitely very powerful, but we need to make sure that we do not lose out on something that we already have. And I feel, playing is just the most natural way of learning. And I think that is something that everyone from our generation will understand. And of course, I think, what we learn in schools, how we interact with our friends, have sort of all of those things have, influenced my decision. I also belong to a small village in UP, and I have seen, I it's not like I'm unaware of how things are in rural India. So I think this overall perspective and differences that I could see in cities and villages in hills has made me understand the importance that play has in our lives. And I'm a strong believer that, being with nature can, change how your child develops in a very, very different way.
That's very interesting. And in fact, when you were talking about technology, there's another video I've seen of Simon Sinek that crossed my mind. And this still happens with us. I mean, just imagine people sitting in meeting rooms and they are on their phones just up to the time the person starts speaking in the meeting. So this is just one aspect, and I'm saying about the grown-up adults who understand the importance of connecting with people and all of that, networking. And similarly for kids also, I believe now there are a lot of games out there, and there has been a lot of cases with Blue Whale or PUBG being the dominating games in the era. So coming to another aspect, that since a lot of people also understand what you do is that uh, and education through playgrounds. And I would like to say this, and I would like to ask that what is your definition of a good education? That is the first. Second, I often hear, because I do have a lot of educator friends, and I often hear this word called 21st century skills. So I would like to know that uh, what are actually these skills, and whether a student can should achieve these skills inside the classroom or outside the classroom.
That's a very interesting question. So I feel, for a child, your home is your first school. Your parents are your first teachers. And that is where the learning starts. Your learning does not start, your education does not start when you have started writing exams. Right. So what I believe, like, what education is not just learning, improving their numeracy and literacy skills, but also developing into better human beings. We have we might have a very high percentage of literates, in city or in country, but what we want to develop are more educated people. And I think education is definitely not just developing some of these skills, it's overall development. And the ones you mentioned, right, some of the 21st century skills like negotiation, compromise, problem solving, some of the very important things that we all need in every job today, from a very be it any kind of a role. And all of those things are not taught in classroom. Those are the things that we learn while we are outside playing with our friends, interacting with the society. And if we make that transition where children are living in their own silos and they're not sort of knowing how to sort of interact with other people, and the first time they do that is in a corporate environment, they will not be able to do that. So yeah, I think it's very, very important for us to not leave behind what is good, and take that also along with them. And I also feel that when children empathetic. And I would like to narrate one story of I read. There's this person, Stuart Brown, who is basically the founder of National Institute of Play, and he was studying criminals before he started studying play and the importance of play in children's lives. And the pattern that he found on all the prisoners was that they all lacked, opportunities to play in their childhood. So that is how powerful play is, like, so if you want our society to develop into better society, it all starts from very young age. And I think, yeah, that's what educated society should look like.
That's very lovely. And I was actually thinking, because when you talk about the skills, and one skill which crossed my mind was being solution oriented. And I often quote this, and I believe personally that I love traveling. And the reason when I'm traveling, I'm exposed to a new culture, new food, new people, new language. So that actually forces you to remain solution oriented. And the reason why I'm quoting this also is because a lot of times you don't need to study something uh, in order to be profound on skills. It's just that there are different ways of practicing and different ways of adapting on the go. So I really like the perspective you shared on this. uh, Now, since we talked about let's say the skills, I would also like to quote the other aspect, uh, which is called NCF, National Curriculum Framework 2005. So in our education policy, NCF 2005, there have been clear guidelines on the requirement for schools, and also one key requirement is having a playground within the school, right? And I personally, I've been grateful that I studied in a government school, be it Kendriya Vidyalaya, and we had a lot of grounds around. But then I also see a lot of public schools who are mostly focusing on academia. They don't have that facility. So still, so they don't have the major playgrounds in most of the schools across India. So how do you envision that?
So yeah, like the be it the national curriculum policy, or even the new education policy that came into being in 2020, play has been a very important part of how we want to impart education to our children. But I think just having big grounds is not enough. I feel that as a designer, believe that spaces are very powerful in how you can define the behavior of individuals, right? In a classroom setting, how you arrange chairs will define whether it is a many to many interaction versus a one to many interaction. Similarly, I feel in schools and in playgrounds, if we design spaces in such a way that children can explore their creativity and imagination, they will learn on their own. We have to shift from a very spoon feeding culture to where children can learn on their own. So I think that is also very important, that we are sort of missing out in the school system yet. So yeah, I think that's what we are also trying to do, in working with government schools, most of which do not have any proper playgrounds. So trying to make sure that through these playgrounds, children are able to develop various skills. Even in a playground, we make sure there are different kinds of activities and it's not monotonous. So yeah, that's how we have been doing this.
So since you talked about different activities you focus on, so I would also like to know. I mean, can you little share more about the concepts you think while creating playgrounds, or what are the signs being followed there?
Yeah, one of our design philosophy is keeping user at the center of our design. So typically when you think of a playground, all you see is a slide, swing, and a seesaw, right? Like there's not much innovation that we have seen. So how we took the approach was, we spent time with children. And because we work in different geographies, a lot of variety is there. We do spend time with children to understand what their perception of play is, and we get some amazing ideas from children, because I believe children are the most creative people. And as we become adults, maybe we lose that creativity in us. But yeah, like that's how our sort of conceptualization starts. So we have built everything from elephant horses to slides, climbers, rockets, car, and whatever children want in their playground. So that is how it happens. Like recently, we've had built a playground for a girls' school in Bangalore, and they wanted us to do that. We had also built a playground for a blind school, and we did spend a lot of time with the children to understand that we are not making any assumptions, but we are actually catering to what they want in their playground. So that's how we typically design and build these playgrounds.
That's really lovely, and I'm actually very happy to see uh, that there is a strong why and purpose behind doing things, and it's not just like even doing things around it. So I would really like to congratulate you and your team for that. Uh, I have a last thought coming to my mind, which is about since I've seen that through pandemic, a lot of organizations have been evolving around what they've been doing, and some also taking a pause, trying out new things, trying to help people out. And I also see that you have been actively doing relief work, not just in Bangalore but also across the country. So my question to you is that can playgrounds really wait? Because, or I would say, let me rephrase it for you, that at this time for more than a year, the education, especially for primary kids, has been disrupted. So what can be the new playground for them, and how you guys are actually trying to work around it?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, when the pandemic hit and there was a lockdown and all schools were closed, um, one of the first things that happened was the communities that we work with. Like some of these communities are migrant labor communities, and most of the people had lost their jobs, and they reached out to us that how we can help them. So we started COVID relief work, providing them with essential food kits, dry rations. And when we were doing these distributions last year around March, when we went to these communities, we realized that most of these people live in very small houses. So there are like 6 people with maybe three children staying in that one small room, and children are not used to it. Children are used to running, large spaces. They have so much energy in them.
Hmm.
So that is when we thought that yes, we continue to build playgrounds, but we also need to understand by the time children cannot come outside, let's take play to their homes. And we came up with this new product called as Play in a Box, which is basically indoor games which help children play and learn in the safety of their homes. Also, if we look at numbers, like more than 90% of the children in India do not have access to digital devices, which is a crazy number. And I mean, of course, it would be amazing if we can get these children to access education, but we thought it is our responsibility to help children in some way. And the games that we have designed help children in their overall learning. So we have 6 games, and each game caters to a different development area. So we have a game which helps children in physical activity. We have a game which helps them in their art based creative expressions. We have a game which helps in their team building skills, so when they play with their siblings. So with all of those things, we have made sure that children remain curious and even while they're just playing, they will learn a lot of things. So that is what we have been trying to do. We have distributed these boxes to more than 11,000 children in the last 1 year. And also, like, we have built close to 90 playgrounds even during the pandemic.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think playgrounds need to wait.
Yeah.
I think children will be very excited, as soon as the schools can reopen. And I hope this pandemic, goes away very soon.
That's lovely, and I'm actually thrilled to see the numbers you quoted, and I'm really happy that you have been managing both the aspects here and there. So thank you for that. And with this, I am officially I officially would like to invite you to the second segment, which is called Spotlight. And in this segment, what we do is that both I and guest, we share one recommendation with our listeners. It could be anything. It could be a book, a movie, a documentary, or a reading as well.
Mm.
So, any recommendations you would like to share with our listeners?
I think one of the book which has like really helped me and sort of inspired me is this book called as The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And I remember the first time I picked up that book, I just read 2 pages and kept it back because I had just started my job and I couldn't relate with it.
Mhm.
But I picked up that book again when I started Anthill, and I think I could relate with every single page and every single story in that book. There was just a lot of learning. A lot of times I think that it is their journey and how will it be similar to mine, but I think there is so much that we can learn from people who have done that before. So I think that is one book that I would recommend to anyone who is starting out, to definitely give it a read.
That's lovely. And in fact, I actually have this book since 3 4 years, and I haven't read it. But definitely, I'll pick this as the next one. So thank you for that. I would say I in general, this is my personal recommendation, and I was actually thinking that I was enjoying reading. So what I did is that I started going back to Hindi books because I realized that I used to read a lot of Hindi lessons in my school and class. So there is a book of 6 book set uh, by Manav Kaul. Manav Kaul, who is also an actor, he also write a lot of plays, and he wear a lot of hats also. And these amazing books. And the one book which is very close to me is called Tumhare Bare Mein, and it has a 1 page writings, which is like you can say it's neither a poem nor a story. This like more of an Instagram captions, you can say. But that's very beautiful written, and specifically uh, there is one writing which says steak par kya hai. And this actually stakes actually talks about the element ki मैं चाय पीऊं या कॉफी, या मैं आज जूते पहनूं या चप्पल. So अक्सर you get into the equation where you're confused about choices you're making, and the moment you pick one, जैसे for example I just had my coffee, and now the moment I bring coffee, the another thought will start playing in your mind is that what if मैं अगर चाय पी लूं. सो व्हाट ही इज ट्राइंग टू से इज कि आप जो चुन लेते हो वो तो चुन लेते हो, लेकिन जो नहीं चुनते वो आपके थके हुए जीवन का हिस्सा बन जाता है. सो ही describes the situations very beautifully. So I would recommend that anyone who would like to read in a flow कि आज मैंने एक पेज पढ़ लिया और अब maybe I want to take a break, so you can anyways pick this book whenever you feel like. So that's my recommendation for the day. So
Lovely. Thank you so much. I have not been recommended a Hindi book in a while, and but definitely like going to buy it right away.
that's lovely. So, thank you, Pooja, for being part of the episode. And I am actually really happy to see you after a long time and speaking to you. And it's always inspiring to see your work virtually for sure. And thank you once again for accepting my invite and for being part of this. And I am really hoping that our listeners would love the episode.